Good morning, people. Welcome back to Daily Red Devil for all of your latest Manchester United transfer news and talk. It's a new week. Let's try and start this one positively, and let's hope that we get some big transfers coming in and out this week. That's what we'll be talking about on the show today. But before we jump into that, please do smash a like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel if you are new. And let's get straight on into it. So on the show today, we are going to be talking about Ryan Gravenberch and an offer has apparently been issued to the player. We will be talking a little bit about that in a minute. We're also going to be talking about Mason Greenwood. Apparently today is going to be the decision day. We'll also be talking about Dean Henderson, who looks set to leave the club. Got some updates for you on Benjamin Pavard. We've also got a bit of a story coming in around Raphael Varane, which has just broken the last couple of minutes. So we will jump into that right away. But let's jump on into it. And as always, I do try and make the show as interactive as possible. So do let me know your thoughts on everything we discuss in the comment section of the video. Right, let's get straight on into it though. Let's start off the show with the big bit of breaking news that's just come out. This is coming out from a journalist in Saudi Arabia. The guy's got 1 million followers on Twitter. Has been really good around a lot of the kind of Saudi stories this year. And he is reporting that Al Ittihad are in negotiations with Manchester United for Raphael Varane. It goes on to say the French defender has given positive indications of playing in the Saudi league. Now, we did talk about this a couple of days on the show, but it was very early. It was saying that Benzema and Kante were reportedly trying to convince Raphael Varane to move to the Saudi league, but at that point he wasn't unsure. He was unsure about the move and all the rest of it. Now, I'm not sure what to think about this one. I'm really not. Yeah, it's a bit of a difficult one to kind of brainstorm, isn't it? Because letting go of Raphael Varane seems absolutely mental, but if a Saudi club's going to offer ridiculous money, maybe you entertain it. Now, for me, it would have to be 60 million plus, I think. I know that sounds like a crazy amount of money, and you're probably sat there thinking, what are you talking about? He's not worth 60 million, but I think he's worth that much to us. Like, if Raphael Varane leaves, who replaces him? Lindelof? You know, what do we go and do? We have to go and then buy another centre-back? I think it's maybe a bit of a risky one, personally, but what do you guys all think about this one? Would you let Raphael Varane go to the Saudi league? And how much do you think Manchester United could realistically ask for him? Obviously, we bought him, what was it, 2 years ago? 2 years ago now, wasn't it? And it was £35 million that we paid for him. So it would have to be more than that. And it would have to be enough for us to go and buy a centre-back, a Jean-Claire Todibo, a Benjamin Pavard, somebody of that level, and still have some money left over. Otherwise, what's the point? So for me, I don't know. I never say never, because if the player wants to go and if a ridiculous bid comes in, then maybe you accept it, you know, but he wouldn't be somebody I'd actively try and push out of the club, because if you get rid of him, what does that mean? You've got Maguire playing. Like, it doesn't look good, does it? So if you'd have told me at the beginning of the window that Varane was going to leave and Maguire would still be here, I would have said that was terrible. So I'm not sure about this one, but let me know what you think about this story. It obviously is picking up some legs. We spoke about it a couple of days ago. There was 2 or 3 journalists reporting the story. And then, as I said, there's another Saudi journalist reporting that they're actually in negotiations now. So negotiations are actually taking place between Manchester United and Al Ittihad. I think that's the club where Benzema plays. Let me just double check that for you. Yeah, it's the club where Benzema plays, Kante plays. And obviously they've spent a ridiculous amount of money this season, haven't they, Al Ittihad? So they've definitely got the money. If a big bid was to come in, maybe Manchester United accept it. He's only 30 years of age. I think he's got 2 years left on his deal at the moment. He's got 2 years left on his contract. It's a really hard one, because for me, I think Varane will need replacing in the next probably year. I think this time next year we'll definitely need to replace Raphael Varane. I really do think so, because at that point he'll have 1 year left on his deal. He's definitely lost a bit of pace. He's definitely injury prone. He definitely can't play 2 games a week. But when he does play, I think he's a world-class player. So it's one of those ones where it's a little bit of a difficult one. You know, there's not an easy answer to it. As I said, if somebody offered a ridiculous amount of money, 50, 60 million, and we could go and get Antonio Silva from Benfica, we could go and get Jean-Claire Todibo and have some money left over, I would probably do it. I would, purely just based on the profile, his age, his injury record. But, you know, if they're going to offer £20 million, like, you're definitely not going to do that, are you? But let me know in the comment section what you think about this one. Do you think that Raphael Varane would want to go to the Saudi league? I think he might, you know? He's won everything in world football. He's won the Champions League countless amounts of times. He's won the Premier League. He hasn't won the Premier League, sorry. He's won the World Cup. He's won La Liga God knows how many times. So he's accomplished everything that he's going to accomplish in world football. And me being completely honest, he's not going to win the Premier League. Let's be honest, is he? He's got 2 years left on his contract. Does anybody in this chat this morning genuinely think Manchester United are going to win the Premier League in the next 2 years? I don't think so. So maybe he is weighing up his options. That's what the story's coming out this morning is saying, that he's given positive indications of playing in the Saudi League. Obviously, he would be, playing alongside Benzema, playing alongside Kante, two people from, two of his fellow countrymen. Who knows? Let me know in the comments section what you think about that one. We'll obviously keep you updated as and when more stories come out around that. But for me, my stance is, unless it's a massive, massive bid, I think you just reject it outright. If they're offering 50, 60 million, maybe do it. Otherwise, it's a no. But let me know what you think. Let me see what everybody is saying about this one in the comments section. Wayne says 70 million, but they also have to take Martial. Salim says 55 to 60. Simon says sell Varane and keep Maguire sums up this shambolic club. Yeah, I agree. I agree. It is difficult, isn't it? It is a difficult one to talk about. But let's move on to the next topic, though. Let's talk about Ryan Gravenberch. Now, I know this is somebody that a lot of you really, really like in the chat. So there's a story coming out from Neil Custis this morning saying that both Liverpool and Manchester United have made contract offers to Ryan Gravenberch. It goes on to say that Bayern value him at £22 million, but a more likely compromise would be for Gravenberch to be sent out on loan for the season. So it looks like it probably will be a loan for Gravenberch. We did speak about this a couple of days on the show, and I think a loan move would be really, really good. I do. I think if you went and got Amrabat, £25 million, and then you got Ryan Gravenberch on loan for one season, I think that would be great. I think it would be a really good bit of business. Obviously, he's not getting any game time at Bayern Munich. I don't think he's started in either of the first two games for Bayern. So he definitely is desperate to get out of the club, and he's desperate to actually get some minutes, because obviously we've got the Euros coming up next summer, haven't we? Well, this time next year will be the Euros, and he's not going to be in the Dutch squad if he's not playing football. And that is probably part of his decision. So then Fabrizio goes on to say that Manchester United have expressed their interest in Ryan Gravenberch's services and will be keeping an eye on the situation in case an opportunity to bring him to Manchester arises. And Neil Custis is also reporting that Bayern Munich told Ryan Gravenberch they didn't want to lose him when Manchester United and Liverpool made inquiries. He has now decided to seek more guarantees about minutes on the pitch, which has put Erik ten Hag and Jurgen Klopp on red alert. So just to be clear, Liverpool are also pushing for Ryan Gravenberch's signature. So it's not just us in the race. There's both of us trying to get him. Yeah. I don't know. I'm not sure. I think he'd be a quality addition to the squad. I think him, Amrabat, Casemiro, Bruno, all of those people in midfield, I really like the sound of that. Whether or not it will happen, I think it's one that might happen towards the end of the transfer window. And they were also saying that Ryan Gravenberch remains a big admirer of Erik ten Hag. He feels he will lose out on his place in Holland's squad for next summer's Euros if he continues to remain on the sidelines at Bayern Munich. So there obviously is a concern from Ryan Gravenberch's side. Rightly so, It's the same as it's how Harry Maguire should be feeling. Harry Maguire's 30 years of age, and he's got less ambition than this 21-year-old player who's worried about being in the Euros. Like, I don't know what Harry Maguire thinks is going to happen. Does he really think that Gareth Southgate's going to put him in the Euros? I mean, if he does, that's an absolute disgrace. Yeah, so let me know what you think about Ryan Gravenberch in the comment section. Do you think it would be a good deal to do? If it was me, I would go for a loan with an option to buy. Apparently, Bayern Munich would be willing to sell him for somewhere around 20 to 30 million pounds, which I think is very fair. I do. I think he's a quality player. He's still very young. He's only 21 years of age. Obviously, he's already in the Dutch team. He was really, really good under Erik ten Hag at Ajax. I think he'd be a quality signing. So for me, if you could get him and Amrabat, that would be great. And I think that's what we need to be aiming to do. I don't think one of them's enough. I think we need both of them. Do you know what? Do you know what's really, really confusing me is why have we let Fred go for such a little amount of money and we haven't replaced him? Like, that's what's really frustrating me. I don't understand why the narrative from the club is we need to sell another person in order to buy Amrabat. So what, are they saying that we're just not going to replace Fred? If you look at all of the big games we played last year, right, against the top teams at home, the ones where we did well, Fred usually played because Fred is an absolute workhorse in that midfield. And we saw that against Tottenham. We got absolutely overrun in that midfield. And I genuinely think if Fred was in there, I think we would have, I'm not saying we would have won the game, but I think we would have been a bit more convincing. So in relation to Ryan Gravenberch, Bayern Munich paid 18 million euros for him this time last season. So what's that in pounds? They paid about 15 million pounds for him. So Bayern want around 20 to 30 million. So, you know, it's not a crazy amount of money for a 21-year-old who's got heaps of potential. Obviously knows exactly what is expected of him in the kind of system. You know, he can play CDM and he can play centre midfield. So yeah, I think he'd be a quality signing, but let me know what you think about that one in the comment section. Now, there was one thing I wanted to bring into the chat today, and I wanted to ask the community and get everybody's thoughts and feedback on. And I wanted to talk a little bit about Ten Hag, because I've seen so many people on Twitter saying already, Ten Hag out, get him out of my club. Like, and I just wanted to gauge a little bit of how everybody in the chat's feeling about Erik Ten Hag at the moment. Are you confident about what he's doing? You know, do you believe in the project? Let me know what you're thinking, because obviously I'll give my opinion as well, but I want to hear from you guys. And there was one thing I wanted to highlight before we kind of get into this. Now, I saw a really interesting tweet the other day, and in Klopp's first 4 seasons at Liverpool, right? First 4 seasons. The first season he got 8th. Second season was 4th. Third season 4th. And then second in the 4th season, right? And in the first 4 seasons at Liverpool, Jurgen Klopp didn't win a single trophy. His best achievement was finishing second in 4 seasons. Erik Ten Hag, in his first season, finishes 3rd and wins a trophy. So he's pretty much equaled what Jurgen Klopp achieved in 4 years in the space of 1 year. If you compare that with Mikel Arteta, first season he finished 8th, second season he finished 8th, third season 5th, and 4th season 2nd. And in 4 seasons he's won 1 trophy. So I'm a little bit, when I see people turning on Erik Ten Hag, I think everyone's kind of chilled out a little bit now, but after the game on Sunday, like the amount of people I saw saying Erik Ten Hag out, it was just like, what? It just frustrates me, because if you actually look at what we've done this transfer window, right? Let's have a little bit of a recap on what's happened. We brought in Mason Mount, who realistically we didn't really need, did we? Let's be honest. I don't think we needed Mason Mount. We've got Eriksen, we've got Bruno, we had Donny, we have Fred. We have 3 or 4 midfielders who can do a pretty similar job to what Mason Mount can offer. We bought in Rasmus Højlund, but we know that Erik Ten Hag wanted Harry Kane. We know that he wanted Victor Osimhen. He wanted a world-class striker. Neither of those were possible because of the apparent financial fair play issues, even though Chelsea have just spent $1 billion. There's that. And we've brought in a goalkeeper. We were told that you had some people on Twitter saying, right, bring in a goalkeeper and our style of play will change. We'll win the league because of a new goalkeeper. All that's happened is Onana's come in. He's a good shot stopper, probably has been as good as David De Gea so far. He's not made any bad mistakes, and he's good with his feet. But it hasn't changed the way we play. We still can't score goals. So, yeah, what I'm trying to say is I don't think he's been backed enough. Obviously, we've spent a lot of money, but I don't think the players that we actually have at this moment, the players we've signed, are enough for people to be like, oh, Erik Ten Hag out. It's just like, look at the actual team. Rasmus Højlund hasn't even kicked a ball yet. Mason Mount, I don't think we needed. And Onana, great, happy. Onana's good, but he's not gonna get us scoring goals, is he? So I just wanted to bring this up because I wanted to see what you guys are thinking. Let's have a look what everybody said. Everybody seems to be saying keep Erik Ten Hag. That's good. I can't see anybody saying yeah. Most 90% of people in the chat are saying so Murphy's saying I'm not confident. I can't see what he's doing. No playing pattern and stubbornness in playing Anthony will bring him down. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really agree with you, but obviously that's up to you. What else have we got? Yeah, someone says this fan base is mental to turn on Erik Ten Hag. We'd be nowhere without him. Yeah, 100%, mate. 100%. Look, put it this way, right? If Erik Ten Hag had just signed Osimhen, Frankie de Jong, Kim Min-jae, if he'd had just signed all of his first choice targets and we'd started the season how we had, maybe you could then say, I'm a little bit worried. Okay? I wouldn't be saying Erik Ten Hag out, definitely not. But you could potentially be a little bit concerned because you'd say, you know, he's just bought 3 world-class players. He should be getting more from the squad. He's bought Mason Mount, who had a terrible season at Chelsea last year, and we didn't really need. He's bought Onana, who's a great goalkeeper, brilliant, and he's bought an injured striker. And what? We're expecting to then go and win the league. When Chelsea have just bought Declan Rice, Kai Havertz, Jurrien Timber, Arsenal. Chelsea have just spent God knows how much money. They've bought Caicedo, Lavia, and they just lost at 3-1 to West Ham. So I just wanted to gauge a bit of, to read the room almost and see how the community's feeling about this at this current moment in time, because I've seen so much slander towards the guy, and I don't know whether it's just rival fans. I don't know whether it's people trolling. I don't know if it's people being reactionary. But for me, it's Erik ten Hag in 100%, 110%. He's definitely the right man for the job. And the people that you need to be pointing the finger at are the Glazers. We need to get rid of John Merton. We need to get rid of Richard Arnold. We need to get rid of all of these idiots behind the scenes. Those are the people that need to go, because you can't blame Erik ten Hag for spending the money on Antony. He's not the one who negotiated that deal. He's not the one who negotiated the Mason Mount deal. Erik ten Hag's job is to win football matches. It's to get the players, to train the players. He's a coach, remember. He's a coach. That's all that his job is there to do, is to train the people that the club buy for him. So, yeah. The only thing I will say is, obviously, if we had a director of football, I think it would be very, very different. I have a few friends who support Ajax, and they've said, at Ajax, he did really well because he had a really good support network. He obviously had Mark Overmars. He had Edwin van der Sar. He had 2 or 3 really, really good people above him who were helping him bring in signings, who were helping identify players. And apparently he didn't actually have a hell of a lot of say in who was being signed and stuff. It was quite a lot of it was being done by the people above, who are actual football people. Richard Arnold and John Merton aren't football people. That's what we have to remember here. They're business people. Their core job at Manchester United is to make more money for Manchester United, whether that be from commercial deals, whether that be from signing an Alexis Sanchez who's going to sell loads of shirts, whether that's signing Cristiano Ronaldo who's going to bring in commercial value. That's all that their job is to do there, right? They're not football experts. If you actually look at what they've done before coming to Manchester United, they were just in banking, really. Most of them. Ed Woodward was a banker. They're all bankers. So, I'm glad that everybody in the chat is feeling positive about Erik ten Hag this morning. So Roland says, Kieran, you make too many excuses for Erik ten Hag. Can you tell me what his playing style is? What is Manchester United's identity? He is a fraud. So there are people in the chat who don't want him. Look, think about it, right? Just take a minute. It's a Monday morning. Have a moment. The season before Erik ten Hag came in was our worst Premier League season that I can remember for a very long time. There was no playing style. It was absolutely awful. And before that, under Ollie, it was just counter-attacking football. The playing style was counter-attacking football. It was parking the bus and counter-attacking football. Anybody who's seen what Erik ten Hag did at Ajax, right? It was 70% possession. It was lots of goals. It was very attacking. You're telling me that in the space of 1 year, a manager can come in and change a load of players who for the last 3 or 4 years have been coached by somebody who didn't even coach the team, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. You're telling me that he can change them in that short amount of time into a free-flowing Ajax-style system, right? Most of those players who played for Ajax have come through the Ajax Youth Academy. It's implemented in them from a young age. Just think about it logically, right? I think you can judge him when he has a whole 11 players out on that pitch that he's signed, when he's not dealing with old people's signings and all the rest of it. If at that point it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. In a year, 2 years' time, then maybe you can start having those conversations. But last season, the football was poor. It wasn't Erik ten Hag football. He even said that himself. It wasn't. It was defensive. It was pragmatic. It was to see out games. Because if he didn't do that, we probably wouldn't have got top 4, and he probably would have got sacked, realistically, because that's what the Manchester United's like. If you don't get top 4, the fans turn on you and you get sacked. So I actually respect what he did last year, right? He let his ego go. He let all of his kind of personal pride go. He didn't try and play his own style of football. He tried to do that in the first 2 games of the season. We lost 4-0 to Brentford and we lost 2-1 to Brighton. And we got absolutely destroyed in both of those games. So for the rest of the season, he did a 4-2-3-1, very defensive, very pragmatic. And we did well. We won a cup. We got to an FA Cup final and we got top 4. We got 3rd. That was really, really good in his first season. So you can't judge him on that, because he even openly said himself that it wasn't his style of play. It wasn't. That wasn't what he was known for at Ajax. This season is where we need to start seeing Erik ten Hag ball. The first 15 minutes against Tottenham, that was Erik ten Hag football. We were pressing them in their own box. Every single time that they got the ball, we were either making them kick it out or we were winning it back very quickly. That is what Erik ten Hag ball looks like. So, yeah, you've just got to give him time. And I know football's such a results-based business. You lose one game and there's people like, get him out of my club, bring in... I don't know. I don't even like who. So the person who's the people who are criticizing him in the chat. Who do you want to be? Who do you want as the manager? Then let me know. Who do you want? Zidane, somebody who's only ever managed Real Madrid. Like, who do you want? Like, I don't know. That's what frustrates me. I just think that everybody is a little bit fickle with these types of things. He's definitely the right man for the job. If you can give me a solid reason why there's somebody else out there in world football who could do better, I get the argument of, the Brighton manager's come in and he's done really well, but just think about what you're saying there, right? The Brighton manager has the correct director of football, has the right scouts who know exactly what the style of players that he wants to play, and they bring him into the club. The Brighton manager doesn't sign the players. The Brighton manager has zero involvement in the players. He has an elite team behind him, directors of football, scouts, and they're finding all of these people. They're getting Moises Caicedo for £4 million. They're bringing in people who they know are going to fit into the mould of what the manager wants or of what the Brighton style of play is. Manchester United are calling up Erik ten Hag saying, oh, what do you think about Mason Mount? Yeah, let's get Mason Mount. It's all over the place. We know that. The manager shouldn't be picking the transfers. That's the one thing I will agree with, but that's not on Erik ten Hag. That's up to the club to stamp their authority down and to say, look, Erik, we respect you. You've done a great job here, but we are going to pick the transfers. We'll give you a short list of 5 players that we think will suit the system that we want to play. You can then pick which player you want. That's how it should be, and that's how most of the other clubs do it. They don't just give Erik ten Hag a blank checkbook and say, who do you want? All right, let's go and get Anthony. Let's go and get Mason Mount, Yeah, as somebody says in the chat, Arteta is an example of sticking with the manager. Literally, Arteta, Arsenal fans were getting printed on T-shirts, Arteta out. They've quickly rubbed that from their memory. I've got a couple of friends who are Arsenal fans, and I'm always bantering them, saying, 6 months ago, a year ago, you were saying that, you wanted him out, and now he's doing all these great things. But yeah, let me know how you think about this one. Obviously, it seems like the majority of you are in the Erik ten Hag in camp, but there is always a couple who want him out. We've got over 1,000 people watching the show today, guys, which is absolutely massive. Please do make sure to smash a like on the video, and please do subscribe to the channel if you are new. We're on the road to 15k, so yeah, please do get involved. It doesn't cost any money. It's completely free. We go live every day at 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. and we do go live in the day as well if there's any breaking news, so make sure you subscribe and make sure you hit the notification bell. Nick says the Brighton manager doesn't have the pressure of Erik ten Hag. If they finish 6th or 7th, they'll be happy with that. That will not do at Manchester United. Exactly, Nick. Exactly that. And that is my point, right? Erik ten Hag last season knew that he had to get top 4. He did. He had to get top 4. We weren't in the Champions League last season. Manchester United had to get top 4 last season, right? And to do that, he had to play pragmatic football. He had to play, let's be honest, it was quite boring football last year. Okay? The Brighton manager could go out and play ridiculously attacking football, and if they lose, even all the pundits will say, oh, they're incredible to watch, they're so good. If Manchester United are incredible to watch but we lose, the pundits are still going to be saying, oh, maybe Erik ten Hag should be sacked, maybe he's not good enough for the job. It's a completely different level of expectations, isn't it? These smaller teams, the Brightons, etc., they can go out, play this free-flowing attacking football. If they lose the game, the pundits will still be saying, oh, they're incredible, I love them, and all the rest of it. If that happens to Erik ten Hag, you'll get these pundits on mainstream media saying, oh, I don't think he's good enough. I think it's too much of a step out. That's the thing we have to remember here, and that's why we need to back him, because I just think it's way too early to be starting having those conversations. I'll be at least giving him until the end of this season, the end of next season. If we don't finish this season in top 4, I won't be surprised. Okay? I won't be. If we don't buy any more players in the next couple of weeks and we don't finish in the top 4, I'm not going to blame that on Erik ten Hag. So far, we've bought Onana, who, you know me on this channel, I was quite happy with David De Gea. So that didn't really make a massive difference for me, okay? David De Gea, I haven't seen any massive difference between David De Gea and Onana since he's joined. He's better at distribution. But it hasn't resulted in any goals, has it? It hasn't actually really changed our play yet. I'm sure it will eventually, but at the moment it hasn't. So he's got Onana in. David De Gea's gone. Okay, that doesn't really mean much to me. He's got Mason Mount in. Again, doesn't really mean much to me. And he's got an injured striker in. He's pretty much got the same setup as he had last year. But yeah, keep letting me know what you think about that one. We will move on to the next topic. I will read out some of your questions as well in the second half, so make sure you get some questions in, and I will circle back to them in a minute. So let's talk about Dean Henderson quickly. So there's a story coming out from BBC Sport, Fabrizio Romano, all sorts of different journalists around the world saying that apparently Manchester United are now in advanced talks with Crystal Palace for the deal of Dean Henderson. So it looks like Dean Henderson is finally going to leave the club, which is good. I think you can't have a goalkeeper on 100 grand a week sat on the bench doing nothing. That's a complete waste, isn't it? Apparently, it's going to be a loan with an obligation to buy. That's what BBC Sport are reporting this morning. I'm happy with that. I am. I think that's a good bit of business. If it was an option to buy, I would be a bit concerned, but an obligation to buy, Can't really complain, can you? We'll probably get around £20 million, I reckon. It hasn't been confirmed yet, the exact price, but I would expect we'll get somewhere around 20 million for Dean Henderson on this obligation to buy. As a result of this, though, it does mean that we will have to go for a new goalkeeper, which is kind of confusing, I think. Why have we just sold Matis Kovar if we now have to then go and spend the money on another goalkeeper? I don't know. There's been some very questionable decisions in this transfer window, I think. Some very questionable decisions. Like, where are we? So Fabrizio Romano is saying that Manchester United are now exploring making a move for Odyssey Vlachodimos, who's expected to leave Benfica. He goes on to say that he is top of Manchester United's list as backup goalkeeper in case Dean Henderson joins Crystal Palace or Forest. That's the bit that I don't really understand. Why have we sold Matis Kovar, who I think most people in this community and most people in this fan base thought was good enough to be the backup goalkeeper? Why have we sold him and now we're going to go and spend that money on another goalkeeper? I don't really get it. It doesn't make any sense. If Tom Heaton's going to be the backup, fine, I get it. You can reinvest the Matis Kovar money somewhere else. But to let Dean Henderson go out on loan with an obligation to buy next year and then have to then go and spend money on another goalkeeper, like, it's a little bit confusing, and obviously it doesn't excite me in the slightest. If anybody in the chat's heard of this goalkeeper, let me know what he's like. Obviously, he's the Benfica goalkeeper. I think he's Greek, I think. Let me just have a look. Yeah, he's Greek. And he is 29 years of age. Is he Greek? He plays for Benfica anyway. If there's anybody who has seen this guy play football before, let me know what he's like, because I don't really watch the Portuguese league, to be completely honest with you. But I don't know. I don't know what to think about this one. I don't know how much money he would cost. Sorry, he was born in Germany, but he's got Greek citizenship. 29 years of age, backup goalkeeper. They bought him for 2.4 million euros. I don't know. It's not really something to get that excited about for me. Yeah, I don't know. I would have kept Matis Kovar, but obviously I'm not the manager. If we can get this guy for cheap, then fine, go and do it. But if we end up spending more on this person than we've sold in Matis Kovar, I just think that's a bit of a pointless bit of business. And we need to be focusing on midfielders. We need to be focusing on strikers. We need to be focusing on other areas of the pitch. You know, why are we now focusing on a goalkeeper? Like, it doesn't really make any sense to me, and it's just another clear incident of bad transfer window. I think the transfer window's been awful. I do. I'd probably give it a 4 out of 10 so far, and that's why. And just to be very clear, right, before people, probably not you people, but rival fans will probably say, "Oh, you're only saying that because you lost to Tottenham." Anybody who watches these videos daily will know that I said 4 out of 10 so far for the transfer window, and maybe that's even being kind. And that was before we'd even kicked to football. It's been a poor transfer window. A lot of questionable decisions. Whether you can blame that on Erik ten Hag, I don't know. I don't think it's up to Erik ten Hag to make every single decision. I think it is up to Richard Arnold. It's up to John Murtough. Those are the people whose jobs it is to bring in players and to sell players, and they've not done a good job. It is a mess. It is. Florian says, "Hi Kieran, can you ask, if possible, Ten Hag what Antony brings to the table for Man United for the time being that Pellistri doesn't?" I get the argument of a lot of you want Pellistri to get some game time. I get that. I do. But I think Antony was good last season. He was really poor the first 2 games. But was anybody not poor in the first 2 games? Let's be fair here. Rashford was poor. Garnacho was poor. Bruno was poor. Mason Mount was poor. Casemiro's been poor. They've all been poor. So I don't think it's very fair to just single out Antony. I don't. I know he cost a lot of money, but again, is that Ten Hag's fault? If you actually remember what happened this time last year, right? Manchester United went in for Antony at the beginning of the transfer window. They were quoted somewhere around £40 million. Okay? John Murtough and Richard Arnold say, "Oh, no. We don't want him. We'll wait." 2 months later, about this time, they then offer £80 million. That's what happened this time last year. So I don't really see how you can blame Erik ten Hag on that. He clearly said from the beginning of the window last year, "I want Antony." They were quoted £40 million. John Murtough and Richard Arnold decided that they were going to go for other targets. Maybe they thought that was too much money. They wanted Arnautovic, didn't they? They wanted Rabiot. They wanted all these other people. So how is that Erik ten Hag's fault? I would like to see a bit of a change on Saturday, though. I would like to see Pellistri get a game time. I would like to see... I think we should give Eriksen a go. I think maybe even McTominay. There are lots of different players on that bench who I think deserve a chance. There's a bit of an update coming out on the Ryan Gravenberch situation as well that's just come out from Mike I can never say his name. Mike Verwij, the Dutch journalist. He's a really good Dutch journalist. He's saying Ryan Gravenberch is keeping all of his options open regarding the Premier League. If Bayern Munich remain closed and a permanent departure is not negotiable, then a loan is a suitable alternative. So it does look like Gravenberch will go. Whether or not it will be a permanent deal or not, we'll obviously keep you updated on that one as and when we get that information. Right, let's move on to the next story, though. As I said, the goalkeeper thing doesn't really excite me at all. It's good that Dean Henderson's leaving. It's good that it is an obligation to buy, not an option to buy. But I don't know. I think it's just a little bit of a wasted time. We need so many other signings. We need a striker. We need 2 midfielders. We arguably need a centre-back. If Varane potentially goes, that's going to cause a lot of issues and a lot of work. So to be focusing any money and effort on a backup goalkeeper, I just think it's a bit stupid. But, it's not up to me, is it? So we've just got to hope that they know what they're doing, which they probably don't. Right, let's move on, though. Let's talk a little bit about Benjamin Pavard. So I don't know whether any of you still actually want Benjamin Pavard. I know he's caused mixed feelings. Inter Milan are set to offer 30 million euros for Benjamin Pavard. This has been reported by Fabrizio Romano. It goes on to say the crucial point remains Bayern to find a replacement for Pavard to give the final green light. I had a thought when I saw this. I mean, it's probably not going to happen, but imagine if Bayern Munich came in for Harry Maguire. What does everybody think about that? You're probably thinking, Kieran, what the hell are you talking about? Why would they come in for Harry Maguire? But the speed of La Liga, of the Bundesliga, is nothing like the speed of the Premier League, is it? Like, if you think of De Ligt, he's not as slow as Harry Maguire, but he's not the fastest centre-back in the world, is he? It's probably never going to happen, but yeah, how does everybody feel about that one? It obviously doesn't look like we're going to get Benjamin Pavard now. It looks like Inter Milan will sign him, and it will be for around 30 million euros. They've obviously just signed Kim Min-jae as well, so yeah, they've got good options there, Bayern Munich. Apparently, they don't want to sell him. I'm quite glad that we've exited the race for this, because if there's another team bidding, it just gets really, really complicated, doesn't it? And it just causes more and more issues. So I'm not too bothered about that one. But on the topic of Harry Maguire, some bad news, I guess. West Ham have just completed the signing of Konstanios Mavropanos. So they've just bought a new centre-back, ultimately. West Ham have completed a deal for 20 million euros plus 5 million in add-ons from Stuttgart. The deal is done. I think that's going to be one of our biggest laughing moments of this transfer window. And not a positive laugh, people laughing at us. We had a £30 million offer on the table for Harry Maguire, and we couldn't negotiate his exit. They were incapable of getting him out of the club, and now we're stuck with him. Maybe someone comes in for him in the last couple of weeks of the window. I mean, we're literally in the last couple of weeks of the window now. We've got 10 days left, remember, guys. The window closes on the 1st of September. A week on Friday, the window will close. And to think that we could have sold McTominay, we could have sold Maguire, that is going to be the biggest frustration of this window. And that's why I rate it so low, because we've had the opportunity to sell people and we just simply haven't been able to do it. Yeah, and West Ham have now just got their centre-back, so they're not going to come back in for Harry Maguire now. Obviously, they beat Chelsea last night, didn't they? 3-1, so fair play to West Ham. So yeah, that one's out of the window now. It looks like Harry Maguire will stay. Imagine this, though. Imagine a world where Raphael Varane goes to Saudi Arabia and then Harry Maguire ends up playing. Imagine that. Like that is literally a nightmare situation, isn't it? You lose Raphael Varane to Saudi and then Harry Maguire starts getting game time. Yeah. Right, let's have a look at the next story, though. Where are we? Yeah, there's only 10 days left, so they've really, really got to get their ass into gear now, and they really need to start actually buying some people, because if we go into the season like we are, I'm worried. I really am worried. Right, let's talk about Mason Greenwood then. So there's a story coming out from David Ornstein. It came out yesterday saying we should receive new information on the Mason Greenwood case tomorrow. So this was yesterday. Obviously, Manchester United put out a story saying that they were waiting until after the Women's World Cup, which was yesterday. England lost, didn't they, to... Who was it to? To Spain. So we are expecting to get an update on Mason Greenwood today, and we will get a decision. That's what's being reported by... David Ornstein, who obviously writes for The Athletic. I think at this point it's going to go in the way of he's not going to return. I'd be very, very surprised if Mason Greenwood comes back now. And do you know what's embarrassing? That's purely just because of fan backlash. Like, Manchester United can't make a decision for themselves. They should have made this decision a year ago. They make a decision, it gets leaked by The Athletic. The Athletic leaked their decision, what was it, a couple of days ago? And now they've had to backtrack, they've had to make a U-turn, they've had to change their mind. Okay? Which in some ways is good because it shows the power that Manchester United fans have. And if we applied that same pressure around the takeover, you would hope that something would happen. But it doesn't seem to have worked so far, does it? The amount of pressure that's being put on Manchester United, protests, on Twitter and all the rest of it around the takeover, but it doesn't really seem to make any difference. Yet, 24 hours after Mason Greenwood supposedly is going to be brought back, they're now having to backpedal on it and say that he's not going to come back. Like, how can we put pressure on him for Mason Greenwood, but we're unable to do it for the Glazers? We need to put the same level of pressure on the Glazers and try and get them out. It seems like the Glazers don't care, though, so I don't know. It is confusing because the amount of people who are tweeting daily, doing videos, protesting, all of these things against the Glazers, and it still doesn't really seem to make any difference. Yet within 24 hours, they've changed their mind on Mason Greenwood. So just to give you a bit of background as well. So the latest bit of news we had was on Friday. And it was coming out from various different journalists in the UK saying that Manchester United's hierarchy now believe there is no way back for Mason Greenwood. And apparently they're starting to offer him out on loan to various different clubs around Europe. But nobody at this point has apparently expressed interest. So I think at this stage, they're probably just going to have to release him from his contract, I reckon. And all of the people in the chat saying, you can't do that. He's just had a child, he's going to be homeless. When I say release him from his contract, that will mean Manchester United have to pay him the entire amount of money that he's owed. So if he's on £100,000 a week, right, they'll have to pay him all of the money he's owed for the next 2 years on £100,000 a week. So he's not going to be struggling financially, put it that way. He's on £4 million a year. I've just had a look. So we'd have to pay him about £8 million to leave the club, which is crazy. It is absolutely crazy. But I reckon that probably is what's going to happen now. Ryan says, this is a good question, and this has been my point since the very, very beginning, so thank you for this, Ryan. Ryan says, even if he does come back, realistically, is he even going to be competitive in the Premier League? I agree. I think that even if you bring him back today, he's not going to be able to play football for months. Months and months. Maybe longer. He hasn't played a professional match since, I think, 18 months ago. Something like that, isn't it? Yeah, around 18 months. He hasn't played a professional game. He's done a little bit of training, not with the team, just with private coaches. It's going to take so long to get back to that level. So, yeah. Yeah. Simon says, I wonder why nobody wants him. Interesting. The reason nobody wants him is it's not because he's not a good footballer. It's just because of obviously what happened and because of the backlash that's going to be involved with it. They have to weigh up whether bringing him back is... I mean, they shouldn't even have to be having this discussion, but that's obviously what they're saying, isn't it, Yeah, as somebody says in the chat, like, the whole time that this situation's been going on, he's been being paid by Manchester United, right? It's not like he's not been collecting his wages. He's been paid every single week by Manchester United to not even do anything, just to be sat, not even on the bench, just to be at home. So anybody who's like, oh, it's unfair on his partner, it's unfair on their baby, they're going to be homeless, like, it's complete rubbish. He's paid £75,000 a week for the last 18 months, and he hasn't even trained. He hasn't kicked a ball. So I don't think you can go down the whole kind of sympathy route on that sense, He's still going to probably he's probably earned more in this 1 week than most of people in this chat will earn in a year. So don't go down the whole we're going to make him homeless and all the rest of it kind of argument, because it's obviously just not true, is it? Yeah. At the end of the day, right, it's not up to us to make the decision. It's up to Manchester United. They're the ones who run the club. Manchester United made the decision. They decided that they wanted to bring him back. It was leaked to the press. There was obviously a massive outrage, and now they've changed their mind. So that's where it is. Nobody in this chat is going to be able to make a difference at this point. Even the players who play for the club haven't been asked for their opinions. The only people who are making this decision is John Murtagh, Richard Arnold, and probably the sponsors will have some say in it as well. Adidas, TeamViewer, all of these types of people, they'll have sponsors because ultimately they are money, aren't they? They're involved in money. Right, I'm going to read out a couple of your questions now. So if you do have any questions, put the letter Q in front of your message and I will read them out before the show ends. And if everybody who's watching can please smash a like on the video and please subscribe to the channel, that would be amazing. Thank you very much, everybody. Right. Yeah, we're only 20 subscribers away from 14,200. So let's see if we can hit that by the end of the video today. That'd be really, really good. Joe says, I have this feeling that the top rival teams in the Premier League are actually paying the Glazers to stay. I mean, I don't think so, but maybe. So somebody says he will be released because no one wants to loan or buy and he can't stay and not play because then they would have to still pay him 70k a week. Better to just pay him the money. Yeah, I agree. Hendrik says, Kieran, where do you see United finishing? Plus, why defending Ten Hag on Antony signing? Because at first we were going to get Gakpo, but he chose Antony. I mean, at the moment, I think we'll be battling for top 4. I said that at the beginning of the season. I think I said we'd finish 3rd or 4th. I think we'll be in the top 4 race. I don't think we're not going to win the league. Definitely not. It'll be a battle for top 4. Even if we sign Amrabat, even if we sign Gravenberch, even if we sign, a Taremi, a lower profile striker, I still think we'll be battling for top 4. The league is so competitive. It's so competitive. My only goal for this year really is top 4 and to actually see Erik Ten Hag football. That's what I want to see. I want to see us play what we are expecting Erik Ten Hag to do, attacking football, 70% possession, pinning the other team in their half. What we saw for the first 15 minutes against Tottenham. In relation to Antony, look, Erik Ten Hag isn't the one who does the negotiations. That's up to John Murtough. That's up to Richard Arnold. They're the ones who should get the blame for spending 100 million euros on Antony, for spending however much on Rasmus Højlund who's injured. That's not, Erik Ten Hag isn't the one who goes and buys the players. He suggests names and then they have to go and do the negotiations. So yeah, it is what it is, isn't it? Ryan says, do you think Mason needs to release a public video and apologise, etc.? He's been on mute. I feel like that will help a bit. Well, they did say that, didn't they? They did say a couple of days ago that when The Athletic leaked that he was coming back, that apparently he was going to do a public interview. John Murtough, Richard Arnold was going to do an interview as well, explaining why he was coming back. Obviously, yeah, that could change some people's mindsets. The fact that you haven't heard anything from him since this all happened is obviously, probably would have been the case because it was a legal case. You can't do an interview about a legal case. So yeah, I don't know. I honestly don't know. Maybe he will do an interview with somebody. Maybe it'll be like an overlap type thing, where somebody like Gary Neville does an interview. I don't know. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see at this point. But I don't know. T-Shock says, how far do you think we can go in the Champions League? You know what? I was actually thinking about this yesterday, that I think we might have a really, really good run in the Champions League this year. I think we're gonna struggle in the Premier League. I do. It's so competitive. But if Inter Milan can get to the Champions League final, I genuinely think we might do quite well. I just have this feeling that maybe we're going to put a load of effort into the Champions League this season. It's a completely different style of play, isn't it, in the Champions League? It's very, very different. And I'm not saying we're going to win it, but I think at the beginning of the season I said I think we'll get to the last 16. But I reckon we might go further. I do. So yeah, let me know in the comments section, how far do you think we'll go in the Champions League this season? Let me know what you think. Joe says, is there any update about Verratti? No, there's nothing at the moment. At the moment, it's between Manchester United and a club in Saudi. I don't know. Whether Verratti will happen or not, I don't know. It seems like a typical Glazer signing, doesn't it, to try and silence the fans. They bring in a big name. Al Ali have apparently got an agreement in place on personal terms, but apparently Manchester United are also interested. I don't know. I don't know how much money it would cost, how much wages he would want. I think it's just going to cost a hell of a lot of money, and he probably is past his best, isn't he, Verratti? I don't think he's as good as he was a couple of years ago. I'm not saying I wouldn't sign him if he was the only option. I probably would bring him in, but I don't think he's my first choice option. I would definitely rather get Gravenberch and Amrabat personally. But let me know in the comment section what you think. Would you like to see Verratti at Manchester United. Henrik says, if we do win a trophy this year, which tournament do you think it will be? I reckon we might win the FA Cup this season. I have a feeling. I think we'll win the FA Cup. I don't think we'll win the Champions League. I don't think we'll win the League Cup. I reckon City will win the League Cup. I think we might win the FA Cup. I think they're going to be really, really determined to do it this year. So yeah. Tarish says, are you surprised we haven't made any formal bids for players yet? Yeah, I am surprised actually. I think the thing is you have to remember though, for some reason the Manchester United team, whatever you want to call them, they don't seem to work on the weekends. Like, we never seem to do business on the weekends, ever. So I'm expecting today, it's a Monday, it's the start of a week. I'm expecting some big news to come out today, because if not, it's going to be really, really worrying. It will. Because, as I said, the transfer window ends next Friday. We know how long it takes Manchester United to do a deal. How long were we negotiating for Rasmus Højlund? 2-3 months? 2-3 months for Onana? Like, we need to be getting stories come out. Won't it? Jamie says maybe the Mason Greenwood situation is affecting the squad. Yeah, I did see someone talking about this the other day, and they were like, you know, can we put any of the poor starts of the season on the uncertainty around the takeover, the Mason Greenwood situation? Like, there's so many things that are going on behind the scenes that we forget about, right? There's so much unrest in the fan base. There's so much frustration. There's so much anger. I said this at the beginning of the season. I said that the only way that we're going to succeed on the pitch is if behind the scenes is watertight. And it's not. Behind the scenes isn't watertight. Erik ten Hag's not getting his first choice signings. We know that. He didn't get Osimhen. He didn't get Kim Min-jae. He didn't get Kane. He probably has got, out of all of the players we've signed this season, I reckon Onana's probably the only first choice signing, genuinely. He hasn't got his first choice signings. How do those players then feel if they've come in and Mason Mount's like, you know? And then you've got all the takeover stuff situation going on. Then you've got all of the Greenwood stuff. You've got, you know, Manchester United fans harassing the women's team, saying bring him back and all the rest of it. Like, you remember that these people will be friends with the women's team. You know, they play for the same club, Manchester United women's and Manchester United men's. You know, they'll probably be friends and all the rest of it. And to see our fan base harassing the women's team, like, that's not going to be good for their, you know, their morale going into a season. So yeah, I do agree with you a little bit, Jamie. I do think it's causing unnecessary distraction. I said this a month ago when people asked for my opinion on the situation. I said, obviously, yes, I thought he was a generational talent. I think he's a really good footballer, but I think the noise and the distraction it will cause off the pitch is not worth what he could bring on the pitch. That's always been my opinion. Right, I'm going to read out a couple more questions before we wrap up the video. Please do make sure to smash a like and subscribe if you haven't already. We're 6 subscribers away from 14,200, so let's see if we can hit that. Nazim says, why can't we pay the Glazers to leave the club? Well, we can. They just want stupid amounts of money, don't they? Like, we need to get some news on the takeover. Somebody says, do you think David De Gea exit from Manchester United left an unrest in the dressing room along with fatigue from a long pre-season? Yeah. I mean, literally, if you look at all of the things we've done this transfer window, the David De Gea situation was a disgrace. It was an absolute disgrace. Think about it. Rewind yourself back to that. One of the longest standing player in our squad, the only player in our squad to have won the Premier League at Manchester United, and he was treated like an absolute disgrace. He was. You have that going on. You have the takeover situation. You have Mason Greenwood. You've got the uncertainty around transfers. You've got people like Maguire, people like McTominay, Fred, all of these people at the club who know that they're not wanted and refusing to leave. Like, just imagine how the dressing room must be. It can't be good, you know? But yeah, I'm going to wrap the video up here, guys. I will be back, of course, at 6 p.m. for your usual evening show. But if anything breaks during the day, of course, I will go live. So do make sure you smash a like on the video on your way out. Please do subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. I hope you have a lovely morning, day, or evening wherever you are in the world, and I'll catch you all later.